So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And no, we are not doing this from the Antarctic Circle or the Arctic Circle, Antarctica and the Arctic Circle. Okay, I always get those two mixed up. But I just have to have the door open in my office tonight because it's a long story. I won't bore you guys with it. Plus, you're here to listen to Unai, Emery, and Aston Villa. But I do have a Villa jacket on, so it's absolutely fine. Paddy, how are things with you? I hope you're not as in Baltic conditions as I am at the moment.
No, it's actually quite warm where I am, and thankfully the heating has just been blasted for a short period of time. So
like money bags over.
I'm nice and warm for now.
Yeah, for now. And another man that we hope will be getting nice and cozy very, very quickly as he makes himself at home in B6 and specifically, I suppose, within Bodymore Heath is Unai Emery, and that's who we're going to talk about tonight. I know a couple of podcasts have done stuff like this already about what they feel he needs to get right or what he needs to change. But I think what we want to do is we want to kind of look at and be, I suppose, pragmatic about what can change quickly, or what we feel can change quickly, and what needs to be a longer term plan. Because I very much feel that if I'm always about expectation management with myself anyway, and when I speak about a lot of things, it's managing the expectation of it, not to get too high or not to get too low. And sometimes, obviously, we're all humans. There's been nights where myself and Paddy have been here effing and blinded and completely off the rails about certain things. But 90% of the time, like to be a small bit measured and measure expectations. And I've got a couple of thoughts on what I think that Unai Emery can fix very quickly, and then other things that I think I won't be too. I'm not going to say I won't be too disappointed if he doesn't fix them till the summer, but I won't be too expectant for him to have it all changed after the World Cup break, if that makes sense. I think that's an important conversation to have. You can be mindful that there's stuff needs to be fixed, but it might be a longer fix that needs to take, or we may not even have the players at our disposal to fix that problem right here and right now. So that's kind of the trajectory we're going to take this. I want to mention the elephant in the room. We didn't even do a post-match podcast for Newcastle. And I attempted to come on about 2 or 3 times since. And you know what? I kept on going, you know what? I'm kind of just going to be talking about this for the sake of it, because it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we had a shit game. We lost 4-0. It wasn't good in parts. And we specifically, once we went a goal down, we never looked like we were going to get anything back. And I went, is it really do I really want to waste my time talking about it, considering that we're going to have Unai Emery coming in the door? Just to be really honest, I thought that I would have just been talking about it for the sake of it, and then by the time I could get to do it, it was like Monday evening and everybody had gotten it out of their system. So we didn't forget about that podcast. Just didn't think that it was, the time had passed, and we're looking forward to new things.
Well, I suppose in hindsight, we probably should have come on and had a chat about it, but we didn't envisage that we'd be sitting here on Tuesday without anything to talk about on the Unai Emery front.
Yeah.
Other than we know he's in Bodymore Heath waiting on a work permit to come through, which is the most Villa thing ever. We never hear another manager doing anything like this. He normally just arrives.
But you know why that is, Paddy?
Brexit.
Well, it's something new, and I suppose we'll be seeing it more and more often. We will. You'll be seeing it more and more often. Like, has there been another foreign manager hired this season by a Premier League team? Sorry, I'll say that sentence all in one go so you can actually comprehend it. Has there been another foreign manager hired by a Premier League team this season? So who's lost their jobs? Tuchel lost his job, and then it was Graham Potter brought in. He doesn't need a work permit.
No.
Who else has lost their job?
It's this calendar year. Conte came in before then. Other than that, I don't think there's anyone overseas that came in.
Yeah. De Zerbi came in for Brighton, but they were without a manager for a period of time there as well. So we didn't hear. Maybe they just didn't mention he's sitting in Brighton waiting with his work permit. He would have needed to get one anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just another thing. And also with signings, Ten Hag, once again off season.
Do you know what? Maybe it's just a case that we've decided to do it the right way and not announce it until cross the T's and dot the I's and get everything sorted out. I am pretty sure that Unai Emery was talking to the players today, even though he wasn't supposed to be or wasn't getting paid to be. But if he was at Bodymore Heat today, there would have been a lot going down, I would imagine. Probably in the classroom as opposed to on the training pitch, but which is where he does a lot of his best work. I spoke to a guy today who was, I won't say he knew him, but he had been in his company, and what he said to me was, if I was a Villa fan, I'd be kind of glad that Jack Grealish was gone, because he'd never keep up with these tactics that he gets talking about. Like, he could lock them in a room for 2.5, 3 hours, no problem, and keep talking for that time. So there's a lot of work done off the pitch, and I would imagine the players' workload for the next few weeks is going to be quite big, and getting them all up to speed on how he wants the game played. It's I was sitting on the couch there watching Spurs at 1-1, and at a bank of 5 and a bank of 3, and I was trying to explain to my son that that's the way Emery will be in all games, not just Champions League games. That's the way he'll be if he needs to protect the lead or try and catch someone on a break. That's what we're going to look at. So in order to get that across to players, it's going to be huge, absolutely huge, and an awful lot of information to take in. Renewed said Unai Emery has never lost a game to Manchester United, but he's never come in with a team 3 days before a bloody game against Manchester United, and that's the issue.
And you know what Aston Villa are? Aston Villa will kill any of those good statistics that you have. They'll heighten them for any other club, but if you're part of an Aston Villa setup, be prepared for the one statistic that you're proud of to be shattered and broken and stamped upon and pissed upon afterwards. That's just what happens. But we're okay with it. It's okay. My therapist says it's fine. It's fine. I can continue supporting Aston Villa. It's completely fine. It's completely fine. A couple of people asking about the heating. No, I'm just back from somewhere, but I'll tell you what it is. Inside my office here, there's a dryer. Okay, there's a dryer in the corner, and I usually leave a window open when I put the dryer on when I go out, and I didn't, and the place is full of condensation, so I'm just leaving the place air out. It's just natural ventilation. That's literally all it is. But I was just back from being outdoors, and I said I keep my jacket on. It's a touchline jacket from a couple of years ago, just before Kappa, so it's nice and warm and snug. But Paddy, you mentioned one thing there about Unai Emery and about the hours and hours of video, the analysis that he gives. That is something that Graham Hunter mentioned on the podcast I did with him. He said that he doesn't believe that players are stupid. He doesn't believe that. He believes that every player has the intelligence. Every player is playing football in a long time, and that they're subject matter experts in that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the Premier League. And he said, like, obviously, there's going to be the odd exception to the rule. There is going to be an exception to the rule. But he said that they are actual subject matter experts, and that they're going to be able to take in the information provided it's given in the right terminology. And that's one thing that he said, that he doesn't do the whole bite-sized 20-minute clips. He'll give you the full match and say you need to watch the full match. I think that's probably where the difference will be. But so you're right in what you say there about who is talking. He's very detail orientated, but it's not about, okay, I told you about that information, now you need to know it straight away. It's like, I'm going to give you the information and you need to come back to me and tell me what the synopsis is first. And it's all very much, it's about learning more so than coaching. So which look, to be honest with you, this team probably does need to learn how to do one or two things again. And that's what the premise of this conversation is tonight, is what do we think this team can learn quickly, and what do we think will take a bit more time to kind of get drilled into them, or bad habits to get drilled out of them, or what the case would be?
Well, look, they've got 3 games, before the World Cup. So for me, as a fan, I'm not expecting the world to change on its axis as far as Aston Villa are concerned, because it's too little time to change everything. I think what he'll do more than anything else over the next few weeks is try and make us hard to beat, and that will be the most important thing. If he can get another couple of points on the board in the league, maybe even go for it against United in the cup. That's what I envisage will happen in the next couple of weeks. But I think defensively it will be what he'll work on. Whether he has the clientele to work with it in that short period of time, we don't know. But look, this is a huge appointment, and I believe, go for me, going to watch Aston Villa is an expensive habit. I'm getting near the end of my tether at this stage, so I believe this appointment is absolutely huge. So I'm 100% bought into it in the long term, not even the medium term. This is going to take a year. This is going to be this time next year before we see the fruits of this appointment, and that's why they're making such a big deal about it being such a long term contract. He will buy into it himself. He will buy into the whole football club. He will rid the football club of anybody who doesn't want to be there, and he will absolutely get the best out of probably average players to start with, and then he'll look at, especially in the new year, he'll look at a couple of signings in January, and then a big transfer window in the summer where he will probably offload a lot of dead wood, some of them out of contract. And then we'll look. We're into the medium term then, and then we'll look at this time next year, and I see that's when we'll start to push on up the table, and we'll start to see regular results and regular positive results.
So I've got a premise for how we're going to direct this conversation in a moment, but you mentioned there about getting rid of some of the deadwood. I'm not too sure that so when we talk about the things he can fix straight away, obviously he can't get rid of people outside of a window. I completely understand that. I don't think it's as easy as get rid of a load of people next summer. I think he's going to come in here and be, and I've been pretty big on this for quite a while. I think he's going to see a lot more talent in the players than we see, and I'm willing to give him time on that. He's been given a 4.5-year contract, which is the longest contract an Aston Villa manager has ever been given. They've made big deal out of leaking that to Percy today. So that to me is, look, he will obviously bring in players. Don't get me wrong here, but the clamorings for Cameron Archer needs to start up front. That may not be the case now. That may not be the case now. But what it could also be is that Cameron Archer might get that berth coming in from wide left or wide right. He might activate something in those players. Like, I genuinely believe that you mentioned there that Spurs were playing a bank of 3 and a bank of 5. I went back and I watched Juventus play against, Graham Hunter mentioned it, and that's why I went back and I watched it. Juventus played against Villarreal last season. And Villarreal frustrated the living daylights out of them. Do you know why? Because they passed the ball around in Villarreal's own half. So Villarreal got the ball and they passed it around between their centre halves and their two pivots. And they were just so bloody comfortable doing that. And to be honest with you guys, he beat Juventus with Francis Coquelin and Betty Capu playing in midfield with Daniel Parejo inside there as well. Every single one of them over 30 years of age. And all of them castigated, thrown out, not wanted, completely on the scrap heap from their previous clubs. So what I'm trying to get at here is, I think there's very much a case of that you can definitely activate something within these players. And point in case for this is, like, I've seen it online. I'll get rid of McGinn. Take 20 million for him. Get rid of McGinn. Like 3 weeks ago, everyone was saying McGinn from Scotland. I wouldn't get rid of him. And that's what I'm talking about. Different voice, different manager, different tactics, people fitting in different places. And I'm willing to, and I think he's willing to kind of judge the players on that. And obviously, he can't get rid of them right now. So for me, the short term piece for that is going to be very much instigating a tactic that suits the players that we have. We haven't had a coach that's been able to do that in quite a while. I'm not even quite sure Dean Smith was able to do that because, we brought in 11 players and we stuttered in 2019. And then we stumbled upon something with Jack Grealish on the left and Ross Barkley playing through the centre. And then when Ross Barkley began to blow black smoke out his arse, everything kind of fall to pieces again, yet we still continue to play the same tactic. So that for me is number one. Number one is find something that suits the players, because we can't always just be going trying to find players to suit what you've got. Am I kind of a bit too rose-tinted glasses on that one, Paddy, do you think?
No, well, especially in the short term, because he can't exactly, he can't, with financial fair play, he can't go out and completely change everything. So he is going to have to unearth something special out of what we have. He could do something really off the wall that could really work out for us, especially in the attacking half of the pitch. I think the back six, we'll call them, will more or less look after themselves going forward until he stamps his authority on it. I've no doubt that he will change things and he will freshen things up at the back, given time. But like we're not in a bad state of affairs at the back. Probably with a bit better coaching, we might see, a whole lot more stability in there. Where he needs to change things up from my point of view is where do we get the goals from? Who scores the goals?
We get onto that. We get onto that in a minute. Let's finish and because this is what I was going to go in with. So let's just say we take the defense. Who do you think is probably on the bubble and within that defense? Like who is like realistically? I know he's having a fantastic season this season, and I'm not going to count him out because Jesus, I've had my fingers burnt more times with Ashley Young. But realistically speaking, is a 38-year-old Ashley Young going to be a starting back for us next season? We've got Cash, we've got Dina, we've got the 4 centre halves that we have. Who do you think there may not fit into what Emery wants to do?
Well, from the start, we will take out Ezri Konza. I think he's the one that will put the shits up him without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. So I think the minute Diego Carlos is fit, or maybe even it's Callum Chambers, who knows what he'll decide to do. But I think Ezri Konza will be his first victim. I think he's the first man for the chop. But possibly he could think the same with Callum Chambers. So he could possibly hang on until Diego Carlos is ready to come back in. But I definitely think at centre half is where he's going to look at his strengthening it in the new year. So I could see a centre half being bought. I think he'd be okay with the 2 fullbacks for now. I do think Cash will be looking over his shoulder a little bit come next summer. He's not having the best of times from my point of view. I'm not calling him out by any stretch of the imagination, but and you know what? Maybe a new fresh voice, maybe just what he needs.
If he's able to do, and that's exactly what I was thinking there. I himself and Dina, Alberto Moreno, if I'm not mistaken, Alberto Moreno is at Villarreal and like he's playing out of his skin for Villarreal.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and he was on the scrap heap at Liverpool, and that's the beauty about this Villarreal team. And maybe Unai Emery is only able to do that. Would do this with players in Spain. Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's got this magic dust he can sprinkle over players and boom, they get 15% better overnight. But when you take players from the Premier League and he's able to get them playing, and this is why I'm being so specific with taking players off the scrap heap. He's took them off the scrap heap, and they've gone and they've beaten Bayern Munich. They've beaten Bayern Munich. They've beaten Juventus, and they realistically they probably should have beaten Liverpool the way they came back as well. And they've been competitive against the biggest teams that we wouldn't hold a candle to. And he's been competitive with Francis Coquelin and Etienne Capoue, Raul Albiol, who's the same age as
me.
I was going to say Big Ryan Atkinson, but
I'm not as old as him.
But it's stuff like that. That's why I'm so bullish about this, because he's done it with cast-offs from the Premier League. And I'm not saying we won't be signing cast-offs from the Premier League. I'm saying we have enough of our own cast-offs in the team as it is. But that's why I'm so confident that's why I'm so expectant that he's going to be able to come in here and he's going to be able to line people up and get them playing in a way that suits them. Because he's done it previously. So I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that Ezri Konza is a bad player. I just think that if I look across the players we have there, I think Jan Bednarak won't be signed full-time. He just doesn't strike me as an Emery type guy, which is alone. I think Konza's...
There was a comment there that Konza doesn't have the range of passing. I don't think Bednarak does either, and I think he needs centre halves. He needs central defensive midfielders who are really good with their feet, not just fellas that are going to break up play. Konza, for everything he has, passing the ball isn't his biggest strength, in my opinion. Anyway. So yes, that him and Bednarak, that's exactly the first thing that comes to mind with both of them.
And like I'm even looking through their squad as well. In the summer, he signed Kiko Femenia as well from Watford. Right back, I think, from Watford, and Blackburn, if I'm not mistaken. So he likes to take. He spots a player, he likes him. I think be prepared for that. Be prepared for this guy where people are going, why the hell have we signed him? Why the hell have we signed him? And look, obviously we're going to be fishing in a bigger barrel than Villarreal. We're going to be fishing in a bigger barrel, but still, I'm very open minded regards to that, and I agree with what you said there as well. That even without the range of passing, I think Konsa, like you look at who he has. He's got Pau Torres, he's got Raul Albiol. Neither of the two of them are shirking violets. I think, and that's why I think they do fit the mold of Carlos Mings, even though both of them are left-footed. Both of Carlos and Mings are left-footed. I think they suit the role of Mings. Mings being the Pau Torres type guy, and Raul Albiol being who's the enforcer, ex-defensive midfielder, ex-Real Madrid, all the the accolades in the world, and himself would be kind of Diego Carlos. I think what I'm trying to say is, I think the long-term goal is in the summer, expect a bit of surgery to be done in the back line, specifically in the fullback areas. I think, I'm not quite sure Ludwig Augustinsson gets signed full-time now. I think he's only on loan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure he gets signed full-time. He didn't work with, or did he? I don't think he worked with this guy at Sevilla. And I think we are going to need competition for cash right back. Ken Kessler-Hayden, maybe, potentially, I don't know. But as I say, he's not exactly tearing it up with Huddersfield at the moment. That's not to say he's a bad player. Maybe he gets recalled and gets utilised more often. Now, let's move on to midfield, Paddy. I'm more hopeful about midfield, I think, than most Aston Villa fans. I'm more hopeful about midfield under Emery than most Aston Villa fans, because I think that's where he has really worked his magic. And I mean really worked his magic. At Sevilla, and I know he had ever Banega at Sevilla, and I know that does skew it considering he was just fantastic for them. But when you look what he did with Villarreal, like a motley crew, a genuine motley crew of players is what they had in midfield. Talk to me about it.
Well, look, we talked about midfield since I've been on this podcast. We've been talking about midfield and the problem areas that we've had in midfield. It's probably going to take a signing, or it's going to take something completely out of left field, like a Morgan Sanson being our new hero coming in there. And I want to go back to something before I talk about Morgan Sanson. Is me and you? I'm not sure if we had this conversation on the podcast, but an issue a lot of English managers have is they can't deal with the French temperament, players-wise. This is a manager who has come in, who has worked in the French league, who won't understand the French temperament of a Freddie Gilbert or a Morgan Sanson or a Luca Dean. So this is going to be a huge thing for me. I think Freddie Gilbert will come in from the cold. I think he'll be given a fighting chance to get in there and nail down a spot. I think Morgan Sanson is definitely licking his lips at the fact that this guy is coming in. He's done absolutely nothing this season to warrant that position from what I can see. But I just think it with a clean slate and the fact that this guy will know what Unai Emery is all about, and Unai Emery, I am 100% sure, will know all about him. We might find a way of pigeonholing him into this midfield, which will be really, really interesting, because like I've named two players there who potentially come in from the cold and are like two brand new signings, and they could be brand new players under a manager who understands them and understands their temperament. So that for me is very interesting with our midfield, to see what he does with Morgan Sanson. And don't get me wrong, 1st of January, Morgan Sanson could be out the door just as quick as anything else. But I believe that could be a huge mitigating factor in this.
Yeah, I still can't see Morgan Sanson being a number one, getting an extension of his contract or anything like that. I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't think the player wants to be here that much anymore either. And I think that might be something we may not see. Delighted if it happens. I was one of his biggest supporters when he came to the club. We just haven't seen it happen for him now. And for me, I think that that we've got a new manager who might want to bring in somebody who might want to do the same job as him. He's very samey.
That's why I said he could be out the door the 1st of January. But I would think it would be absolutely stupid of him just to offload that straight away without even considering it, unless he knows anything about him in the past. Because there's a clean slate with the exception of Austin McPhee, who cost the coaching ticket. So why is there not a clean slate when it comes to the players? So that for me would leave that expectation. I know Freddie Gilbert is out in the summer, but it's no harm having these guys around the first team if he's going to leave the likes of Kessler
Agree.
Hayden out on loan. So
Agree.
it'll be an interesting one, but I think that's going to be the left field one that people go, Jesus, where did that come from? Because I think he could definitely get a tune out of Samsung, who has, I think, if memory serves me correct, 18 months left in his contract.
I think you're right. So what my expectation management for the midfield is, don't be disappointed to see a couple of 30 or 30 plus players come in, as in age group.
Correct me if I'm
Sorry.
wrong, but that's not true. Sure, it's not.
No, he was included in the 25. I think there was doing the rounds. I'm 99% certain. I don't have it to hand at the moment. It was doing the rounds, but I think I remember Ashley Priest came out afterwards and said no, that he was included, or maybe it was mentioned in a
It's because he did that tweet with the cherry on the cake that people think that he's that he's not in it, but he is actually in it. But what he meant by the tweet was that would have been the cherry on the cake if he'd been left out of the 25-man squad.
I think the cherry on the cake was he wasn't in the squad photo. That's what it was. But he was actually named on a 25-man sheet that was handed into the Premier League, something along those lines. But what I was saying there was that, like, the players Emery likes to trust experienced, steady players in midfield who will do their job and do it every day of the week. He likes midfield to be the brains of the operation. And what I mean by that is the midfielders are almost like the orchestra, the whatever you want to call it, the conductors of the orchestra in midfield. And I'm not saying that you're going to have raking passes from your sixes or that you're going to have a Messi type figure at the top of a diamond. That likely won't happen. What will happen is he needs his midfield to just do everything fucking 100% right and not make a balls of anything. That's essentially what it is. When you look at who he has at Villarreal at the moment, and I keep going on about it because I think it's super important, and he likes this from his centre halves. Don't be surprised for Aston Villa to bring in, like, everybody's talking about Pau Torres. Speaking to Graham Hunter and speaking to him offline, Unai Emery absolutely adores Juan Foyth. He thinks he is the bee's knees. Don't be surprised for Aston Villa to go in with a big bid for somebody like that. And you're thinking, oh, why are we going for him? Why isn't he going for Pau Torres? Why isn't he going for this person? If he is to go back to his hunting ground, just like, and we'll get on to the Nicholas Jackson stuff in a moment. But what I'm trying to get at here is, I think he's going to bring in maybe a couple of steady heads that he knows can talk his game in the middle of midfield. And I think my expectation management, a lot of people give out about, oh, you don't want to be bringing in players that have no sell-on value. We're okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. League positions for as long as we're not spending 50, 60 million on players that are 33 years of age and not bringing in somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo or somebody like that. We'll be fine. I'm willing to park that bus. We need to get to a certain level first. And if he needs to bring in any more experienced players that are 30, 31, 32, leaders, water carriers, whatever you want to call them, if he needs to bring them in, well, then so be it. And I go back to that, as I say, Daniel Parejo, 33 years of age. Edin Capu must be 33 years of age. Francis Coughlin, 31 years of age. Manu Trigueros is 31 or 32 as well. All these guys, they're of an age. And he rotates them in and out, and they play fantastically, and they keep up with Liverpool's midfield, Bayern's midfield, Juventus's midfield, and Manchester United's midfield. So that's my big expectation management here. And I think the easy fix is to bring in people who can be leaders in that midfield, because God knows we need somebody inside there who's got a bit of a head about them and a bit of leadership quality in midfield, and we're sorely missing. Who do you think is on the bubble in midfield, Paddy? Who do you think is somebody that won't translate into Unai Emery's tactics?
That's a more difficult question now, but I suppose the one on the tip of my tongue is Nakamba. I think I would imagine we're going to see Douglas Luiz in there all day long instead of Nakamba. So he's going to be the one that misses out for me. You
think Nakamba?
I think he's the first one for the axe. Other than that,
Nakamba can't play dead other than when he's tackling. He can't pass the ball. Like, exactly. let's call a spade here. Let's be honest with the whole situation. Like, he can't pass the ball. You know, and I just don't think he fits in. I think there's other players that don't fit in. I like John McGinn is one of the people who can't really pass the ball at the moment, but would he be utilized, played further forward? Does Jacob Ramsey fit into this tactic?
I think he does.
There's
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, I think there's questions.
But the thing about Jacob Ramsey is, I think he can learn, and I think he can learn well. And I think we've seen managers bring him on throughout the last couple of
Yep.
years. So there's no question that he can learn. Are you going to change John McGinn? No. You can take more pressure off him, and he can pass the ball better, definitely, than what he has been doing this season. But the engine room, as you call it, the heartbeat of the team, is what he builds the team around. So that's a more difficult question to see. And remember, we've got Boubacar Kamara to come back in there, who I'm
100%.
sure
He's definitely in position.
he would absolutely build that midfield around. So for now, the only one I can put my hand on my heart and say is in big trouble of even being at the club is Nakamba. I think McGinn will be okay. I think he'll keep the strong characters around, especially till the end of the season. But we will definitely see changes. We probably won't see McGinn next season. Kills me to say it. There's very few left of that team that brought us back up into the Premier League, and he's one of them. But McGinn towards the end of the season. But straight away, I think if there was someone in to take Nakamba, he'd move him on and replace him with someone else.
I think Dendoncker fits into this tactic. I think he fits in very well into this tactic. I think he takes that Francis Coquelin role, or maybe even probably the Francis Coquelin role. I think Boubacar Kamara can be the Danny Parejo, maybe spraying the ball a bit more. We all fell in love with his passing range, Kamara's passing range, and the fact that he could tackle standing up or going to ground. That's actually one thing. I was very unfair on Marvelous Nakamba. Marvelous Nakamba was brilliant at tackling, standing up, and winning the ball back. As I say, his passing range was severely limited.
Yeah.
And Emery might like that. Actually, I'm going to take back what I said about Nakamba. I think that he's probably the odd man out, considering he just he's not making squads at this moment in time. I don't think there's going to be a miraculous recovery from some players that we have, but I think some of the players that we have here will tend to see play a small bit better. And just a couple of the comments here. I think everybody misconstrued me calling for older players. I'm just telling you what Emery likes. Unai Emery will want a player in there that's going to be his man on the field, his coach in the field. And for all the love that Ashley Young gets at right back and at left back, that's what he does. But we can't play him in the middle of midfield as well. So I'm saying you bring a guy in there in a temporary position for a year to get us to a certain level, and then you improve on him. Get us this is just what he's done. So I'm saying that's what I'm expecting him to do, and I'm absolutely fine with him doing it because I want him to be our manager for 4.5 years. I don't think it's anything for us to worry about. We'll be fine if we've got players over 30 in our team. It's not a huge thing. Sell on value, guys, is not all it's made out to be. You'll make enough money through league positions, through qualifying. And if you're worried about having to sell players to balance the books at the end of the year, you've already lost.
Yeah.
That's my view on it.
And with regards to the midfield and the way I spoke about the work that he can potentially do with JJ Ramsey, there's one in here that we've completely forgotten about, Tim Iroegbunam, who's absolutely tearing it up. Absolutely tearing it up. So he can definitely translate into this system as well. So I would imagine he'd be keeping a very close eye on how he's doing in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, there's always this temptation as well to think a manager's going to come in and be bullish. Manager's going to come in, first thing he's going to do is read a dossier on every one of the players that the club has probably prepared for him, and then he's going to take that on board, and he's going to have a dossier from his own coaches over the last 2 weeks, and he's going to read that, and he's going to mash the two of them together, and he's going to come up to an opinion. I think Stephen Gerrard was very much the exception to the rule, and because he's so old school in the way that he treated some of the players, and some of them were just flung on the slag heap straight away, and I think that's. And there was a big talk of a big game of, everybody's got a chance. And yes, he did play this player and that player. And then they just disappeared into nowhere. I think that's very old school management. And I don't think you're going to see that. You mentioned about temperaments of players from other countries and stuff like that. I don't think you'd get away with doing that in Spain. As in, I think it would cause absolute consternation in a dressing room. I think squads are tighter. Squads are I'm not going to say they're tighter. There's a couple of big names in that squad, that Villarreal squad, that cling together and click together. Something myself and Graham Hunter talked about. There's a very big religious element to that Villarreal squad as well, which rub people up, some people in the squad the wrong way. But it's all about managing that. What I'm talking about is that throwing people on the scrap heap and not using them to cut off your nose to spite your face. I don't think it happens as much it's happened as much, shall I say, under Unai Emery, unless he's absolutely had to. He actually struggled to do it at Arsenal, struggled to stop playing the likes of Ozil, struggled to stop playing the likes of Mustafi, and they were bad influences within the team and they wanted to be out there. But he, it was almost to his detriment that he tried to keep bringing them into the team. So I think stuff like that can still happen, but I do think he will want to bring in a leader in midfield, and don't be surprised if it is somebody of a certain vintage, I would say, just to come in and stem the experience gap in midfield, and bring a bit of a head to this to proceedings. Moving on to the strike force, Paddy, and we'll include Buendia and Coutinho in there. We'll call them the front four if you wish.
Front four include Bailey as well.
Yeah. But the players can play in the front four positions that we've seen under Aaron Danks. I don't even know where to start there, because I don't think either of our two strikers fit in for what Unai Emery wants to do. I don't think either of them fit in. I'm not quite sure either of our two tens fit in either. But I know they're not all going to be gone. He's going to have to make them fit in. So it's going to have a lot of intrigue. Yeah,
well, I mentioned earlier that I think he'll sign a centre half. He'll definitely sign a centre forward. 100% he's going to sign a centre forward. And who misses out in that is anybody's guess. But for me, it's Ollie Watkins. I think if a bid comes in from Ollie Watkins, he's out there. I hear Leeds were interested in him today. I'd be very happy to see that one happen. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We just need people scoring goals. Philip Coutinho is a bigger story. I think if he doesn't get a tune out of Philip Coutinho, we're in big trouble, because he has us hamstrung in the transfer market for years to come with the wages that he's on. So there's a lot of balancing that needs to be done there. There's a possibility of him building that strike force around him, but how he does that, it's going to take better men than me or you to work out. But of the two of them, I could see a bigger resale value for Emery Buendia if he was to ship one of them out. But I think the queue will be very short of people looking for Coutinho, so he stays, unfortunately.
I think he can get a tune out of all of them. I just don't think he can get a tune out of playing them the way that Sevilla have played over the last two and a half years. And this is what I'm doing. I know he's not going to come in and play exactly the way. Sorry, not Sevilla. Villarreal have played over the last couple of years, and I know he's not going to come in and play exactly that way. And I don't want him to. I'm just trying to pick up on trends and stuff like that. And if that is the case, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how he's going to do it, how he's going to fit people into the model that he has already. I'm really excited about what he's going to do with Buendia. I'm really excited about what he could potentially do with Ollie Watkins. Could he, and I know I'm just setting myself up here for comments about Ollie Watkins can't hit the back end of a barn with a banjo. Could he unlock something in Watkins whereby he's that player that's running onto flick-ons as opposed to that player who's trying to hold the ball up even when he's in that wide area? I don't know, because maybe something like that might work for him. It's going to be interesting what he does up there. He could ultimately fail with what he does with that strike force, and he might have to just take a full-on hatchet to the whole thing and just get rid of them all.
Yeah, and that could very easily happen in the medium term. That could very easily happen, but how he deals with that over the coming weeks and months is a huge thing, because to get out of this, we're going to need to score goals. So we've kind of written off the two games in December against Spurs and Liverpool, or one of them was in January, but Spurs and Liverpool after Christmas. So after that, we're looking at anything goes. So let's wait and see what he does. Like he's the kind of fella that could come in and rip it up all together and play Bailey through the middle and say, there you go, you've got your carte blanche. That's what you want. You go, you score goals. You drift out to the wing if you see fit to drift out to the wing. There's so much he can do with what's there. Whether those guys are up for the fight, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure Bailey's up for the fight. I'm not so sure Coutinho's up for the fight. I think Buendia would fight till the death. He's one one of the guys that if I was batting on the pitch, I'd want him running in behind me despite his size, because he's one of the guys that would really put it up to anybody, and one of the guys you trust on the pitch to give 110%. Whereas the others, Danny Ings, we don't know what.
I think he's the one player who you talk about work and fight. I think Danny Ings is and I purposely left him out of what I said previously, because I think he's probably somebody that, we've been back and forth about Danny Ings. We know Danny Ings can finish. Danny Ings he scored goals in the Premier League, and he's that player of that ilk that Emery likes to put the arm around and go, "You're my guy up there," but I need to see you produce it. I need to see you produce it up there. And I think, the Carlos Bacca for Ollie Watkins, I'm just not so certain that he can be that. But I think Danny Ings can. If Danny Ings was 6'1", I would be supremely confident. Or if he was 6'2" or 6'3", I'd be supremely confident he'd be able to fit into Emery's tactics, a la Gerard Moreno does for Villarreal. And I think he could get him scoring, because Emery will get crosses in if you're good in the air. He'll get balls in the ground if you're good in the ground. I just like Danny Ings to be almost like a dual threat type of striker. And I know they don't grow on trees, but I think he's got a very good chance of hitting a rich vein of form under somebody like Unai Emery. You'd have to think he works hard. I don't know why. He just strikes me as somebody who works hard. He strikes me as somebody who appreciates what he's been given. Not that the rest of them don't. I hope that isn't disparaging to anybody else in the team. But you know what I mean?
Oh, you know what you're getting at. Like, and that's, I banged the drum for Danny Ings so many times. When I see him in person, I see a workhorse. I see a guy who, I know you hate this phrase, just when he gets his opportunity, he wants it. He puts himself about on the pitch like no other. He drops into positions that he probably shouldn't get into, because he wants it that much, and because he wants to take his opportunity that much. And that probably leaves us a little bit light up top because of that. But, I think in a proper system, under a decent manager, there's no reason why we can't get a tune out of him. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. So I would totally be okay if he shipped out Danny Ings, because of his age, because of his potential value. We might get most of that transfer fee back. He might see a 14, 15 million sale there as a win, in order to get someone in who he might have his eye on for a few years. Same as I say for Ezri Konsa. I think if he got a few million for Ezri Konsa, he might ship him out. But there's value there if he wants to go and sell the players. If he got a good tune out of Leon Bailey and Buendia and Coutinho over the next 6 months, they could potentially be shipped out. But I think Coutinho is my worry with the wages he's on, the hassle we had getting him in, the talk of all the wages that he's being paid. I just think that would frighten away any manager, no matter how bloody mad they are, to think that they could get a tune out of him. And look, I would give my left arm to be sitting here talking about the second half of the season and saying that Coutinho has been our player of the season, because that's the kind of player he can be. Whether he can get it out of him, I don't think so.
Paddy, never underestimate the frivolities of of somebody who's bought a new club and wants to make them the next powerhouse in Europe. And step forward, club president Dennis Wise for Como 1907 in Italy. I think that could be somewhere that might take a punt on Coutinho. What you call him? The Irish guy, Liam Kerrigan, did his cruciate ligament. He was scoring goals for fun at Como. The guy who signed from UCD. They need a replacement for him. Yeah, take Coutinho. All you gotta do is pay his wages. Take him into January. No, I'm obviously being facetious, and I'm joking with regards to that. But I think there's always going to be a team who's going to want to sell jerseys. They'll take Coutinho's wages off our hands at some stage. And look, let's not talk about that. And people are like, that's the whole thing here is, lads, we're not going to sell 7 or 8 players in January. We're not going to sell 7 or 8 players and replace 7 or 8 players in the summer. It's expectation management is what I'm managing this for myself. You guys can believe whatever you want to believe. I personally don't believe that. But as I say, people are going to have to prepare, are going to have to perform, is what I think. And you say with Coutinho could be a weight around the club's neck financially for a while. And once again, you know, this I said it. We said it in the summer when he was signed. We're delighted, but it could be a legacy that we all look back on in Steven Gerrard less favorably than the playing style was, I think.
Absolutely. And there's a few comments there about him going to the US. I think that's potentially the best place if he was to be offloaded, to go to an LA Galaxy or DC United and still pick up the same wages, but get him off our books. I think that's probably, with the Chinese money having dried up, it's probably the number one where you can have those marquee players and bring in a couple of high profile guys that will sell shorts all over the world like Coutinho. So who knows what it will bring. I genuinely would love to see the Philip Coutinho of 2015 rocking up for the next 6 months or the next 3 years. But I can't see it coming. I really can't. And I know I'm harping on about Coutinho. That's because I really love and really appreciate the work that Buendia does. And I think he's got great potential too, and probably more potential than Coutinho, in my opinion. And, people are entitled to give out about my opinion. That's absolutely fine. But that's what I think of that situation. I think if one of them stays, it has to be Buendia and not Coutinho. But
we've barely even spoken about Leon Bailey. I know we touched it at the start. I think Leon Bailey will be fine. I think he's exactly like we need him in. We need to keep him. We need to keep him for a while. We need to unlock the talent in him. Unlock what he had at Leverkusen. We need to play him. Play him wide. He was fantastic against Brentford. Now, we didn't get an opportunity to attack for love nor money when we played against Newcastle, because we just we couldn't get it out of our own way a lot of times. And when we did attack in the first half against Newcastle, the ball fell to Buendia, and sometimes it was passed behind him or he was tripping over it in the box. And that's not his fault. It's the fault of, nothing was scripted. It was all off the cuff kind of stuff. I think Leon Bailey will be really good in this, in Unai Emery tactic. All you got to do is look at Yeremy Pina, people like that, people who've got latent pace. Danjuma, I'm going to say about Danjuma. Yes, he's finishing his come on a ton. Paddy, can you tell me how many goals Danjuma scored in the Premier League when he played in the Premier League for Bournemouth?
2.
A duck egg. He didn't score any goals in the Premier League. He did all his scoring in the Championship. And Unai Emery bought him for big money and unlocked him in La Liga at the highest level he had played. And he's still playing very well. And he's been called up to the Dutch team in 2018, but now he's really in there with a chance of making it into that Dutch team. And Leon Bailey has that talent that, okay, we messed about playing him at number 10, and look, there was times where maybe we kind of thought that we could fit him in there and we could laugh at some of the things. But look, we won't dwell on it. Leon Bailey is fine. I've no interest in getting rid of a Leon Bailey at any stage. I need to see what he's going to do under Unai Emery, because I think Unai Emery likes a good pacey wing player to take the game to teams. Because as I said previously, if we play like if we end up playing like they did against Juventus last season, we'd be passing teams around in our own area, or not in our own area, in our own half of the field, drawing teams on, being confident with what we're going to do. And if you look back at that, Villarreal hit them on the break 3 times, and it was just silky, beautiful stuff. And Leon Bailey is needed for stuff like that, because we don't have pace like him. We just don't have it unless we replace talent with pace. Not talent with pace, but unless we replace maybe a Coutinho with pace or something like that. We just don't have it. Buendia, we've said it before, Buendia looks like he's running fast. I'm not quite sure how fast he is. I could be wrong on that, but as I say, we've nobody who can hold a candle in a foot race to Leon Bailey. So can't be getting rid of those talents under a new manager straight away. I think that's pretty much going to do it. Paddy, I think any last talks about?
No, I think it'd be bad if we didn't mention that we're both bitterly disappointed to see Neil Cutler leave the club.
Yes, very much
absolutely absolutely shocking news yesterday. And of all the people who were there, I thought he'd be the one that would. But look, I suppose a manager comes and brings his men, and you totally get that. But when we see other people hanging on to their jobs, when we know that man has done an incredible job for the club, it's a hard one to take. So look, if he's listening, and we know he does listen to podcasts, Neil Cutler, thank you for everything. It's been incredible.
Absolutely, Neil. Yeah. Big cuts be missed around the dressing room. He'll have no problem finding another job in football.
No, he won't.
Look,
He won't. But look, it's one thing finding a job and another thing finding a job you like.
Yeah.
And he was obviously very, very happy with Aston Villa, and that's what hurt me a little bit yesterday to see. Of the three, a lot of talk that Danks is a blue nose. I don't really care if he's a blue nose or not once he does his job. But of the three, I think Cutler had the biggest connection to the club. So to see him go was a little bit of a heartache. So anyway, just thought that had to be said.
Exactly. Neil Cutler. And my view on it as well, you can't have too many Neils in around the club. You just can't. You just can't. It's something that they don't grow on trees. Guys, thank you so much. So thanks a million, and thank you so much, Ethan. It's been a long day. I really appreciate it. I know there was loads and loads of comments there, and you guys were having great chats inside in the comments. They were flying up and down there. We will endeavor to read more comments in future. We do, and we love the comments, so keep them coming. There was really good discussion in there as well. And as I said, we tried to touch on some of the points that you guys were talking about. So thank you so much for those comments. I'm super excited. I think everybody has to be. Well, you don't have to be excited. You can be whatever you want to be. Sometimes I say, I think everybody has to be excited. I expect everybody to be as excited as me. It's cool if you're not. If you don't think Unai Emery is the guy, that's fine. I think that we here are very excited, should I say it, for the Love of Paul McGrath podcast with regards to a manager coming in with his pedigree, a manager coming in with his resume, his stature, and I'm looking forward to seeing somebody come in and coach up the players that we already have and see what happens then when the summer transfer window really opens up. But thanks so much everybody for joining us. I'm going to come back tomorrow. Paddy may be with us tomorrow, but I will have a Manchester United fan with me to do the pre-match. It'll be a shorter podcast. I also have a piece on Nicholas Jackson. I skirted around talking about him there earlier on. Nicholas Jackson, I've got a small piece on him, and the potential. Can you even say that? Can you have potential? Is there potential to have potential? I'm not quite sure. If is there any philosophers out there, hit me up in the DMs. I'd like to have a discussion about potential. But yeah, the potential that Nicholas Jackson has as well. I don't know whether that's going to come to fruition, but it seemed to be a name that was thrown out. And no, before anyone asks me, I'm not wasting my time doing anything on Eden Hazard. Okay, I'm not wasting my time. And that'll tell you how bad that rumor is. Okay, because if I'm not wasting my time doing it, you must know I really don't believe it, because I've done some stinkers. I've done some transfer rumor podcasts on some fellas that didn't have a hope in hell of coming to Aston Villa. I am not doing Eden Hazard. Okay. Much not as I like Eden Hazard, I just don't think there's any way hope in hell that he's going to be wearing claret and blue in the coming season. So I'm just not going to do it. But Nicholas Jackson is somebody that I will be doing a piece on as well, and I might do. I do have it in my mind once I can find the time, because I've got a pretty busy life at the moment. But once I can find the time, I'm going to try and go down through players that and try and go down through and try and catalogue players that have played under Unai Emery, specifically at Sevilla and at Villarreal, and try and pinpoint a type of player or an attribute or whatever. As I say, I've already done it with slightly, but I just haven't had time to put it all together. But I think it's really interesting, and that's something we should look at, is trends that he likes to have in players too. Exciting times, and hopefully we see something tomorrow. If I'm a betting man, I'd say we'll get an announcement in the morning, and then we won't get anything till the afternoon tomorrow, because they want all the lovely video footage of him on the training field in his wonderful tracksuit. So I would be we're hopeful that he would be announced in the morning, and we get into in the afternoon.
I think it's just there's a little bit of a deflation because we were expecting it, and now we've got 2 days into the week and we haven't heard anything.
Exactly.
And the fact that I'm going over the weekend, I'm apprehensive now, going, why have we not heard that he's a manager, and why is he not heard that he's on the training field, and why is we not heard that he's making changes other than the changes that came yesterday? So it's I'm just waiting on that burst of excitement to come tomorrow, and fingers crossed it'll come early.
He'll be there. Yeah. Excellent. So thanks so much, everybody. If you do like this, give us a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, we really appreciate you hitting on the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And usually when we look at our analytics, probably about 50% of the people that watch us subscribe and the other 50% don't. Listen, as I say, if you do like us, please subscribe to the podcast. We would thoroughly enjoy to have you here more and more often. And I think that goes for you as well, Craig Butler. Thanks, William, for stepping in. I think that's the real Craig Butler. If it is, Craig, good man. Thanks for watching. And just like you say there, Leon is hard. Let's, as I say, let's hope that he is flavour of the month under Unai Emery, and that Unai Emery gets the best out of him, because every single player that wears the claret and blue for Aston Villa, I want to be the best player in the world, and that goes for absolutely everybody that's on this squad at the moment. I would love nothing more than for Aston Villa not to have to buy anybody and go in and win a cup this season and get the best out of the players that we have. It's good for the club, it's good for the fan base, it's good for everything. And as I say, if you are the real Craig Butler, thank you so much for watching in. And as I can say, pass on our best regards to your son. All right, guys, we're going to leave it at that. And thanks so much. Hit the like button, thumbs up. We'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.